All right. Peace and wellness, family. I hope that y'all are well and happy and whole and all that good stuff. I hope y'all can hear and see me well. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Well, it's good seeing y'all. Much love to my tribe. Shout out to the butterflies in the sky. Hey, wellness community. I love y'all dearly. I truly, truly, truly do. And I'm so happy to see y'all. Y'all know, as usual, I have to set the intention and make it very clear and very plain why we are here on this beautiful day today, huh? So the intention for this live is for us to discuss our upcoming full moon in Scorpio that we have peaking on May 12th. And the shadow period for this full moon starts today and it will last until May 15th. I'm putting something down. It'll last until May 15th. Now, with that being stated, the intention is for us to discuss the energy of this planetary alignment. What does this planetary alignment mean? And baby, it's gonna mean something because we have a T square with the two ruling planets of Scorpio, and I'll get into that later. We'll discuss how the alignment may impact our energy, and we will also identify some practices that we can implement to utilize all of this energy for our wellness. I'm glad you made it live too. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody said grand afternoon. Come on now. Come on now. The comments is going, so I missed you. Hey, happy birthday. Coming. Hey, Sydney girl. Come on. Come on. Now, y'all, I got to give you a life update. Well, this community, y'all already know because I shared it with y'all. Hey, Phoenix Rising. Shout out to my moderators. Hey, Phoenix Rising. Much love. Hey, Cash. Hey, Sage, I see you. Okay, let me get into it. Well, this community, y'all already know, but those of you who are not in the community, let me tell you, baby. Yesterday, I went to Mama Tina Knowles, Miss Tina Knowles book tour stop here in Atlanta. She just released her autobiography called Matriarch, where she shares her whole life story, literally from before birth, because she starts out the book by honoring her ancestors. And then I haven't made it to the end of the book yet. Okay, I'm right at I'm right after the divorce. That's the part of the book I'm up to. But anyway, her book tour, she's going around and having conversations with people in her circle. So the tour stop for Atlanta was hosted by Tyler Perry, moderated by Tyler Perry, and it was really good. But baby, let me tell y'all what made it good for me. The conversation with Tyler Perry and Tina Knowles was good. But baby, they had Leandria Johnson open up that show. The Leandria Johnson opened up that show and she sung Deliver Me. Honey, just take me on up there. If you wanted the ghost to come into the room, just say that, Miss Tina. Why would you call Leandria Johnson to open a show? If you wanted the ghost to take us out, Miss Tina, you should have just say that. Just on the ticket, it should have said, prepare for the ghost. Prepare for that holy, holy, holy. Okay? When I say Leandria, come deliver me. This is my exodus. She ate that up. And it was a surprise. I didn't know she was coming. I saw today that Leandra actually on her page announced it earlier yesterday that she was going to be there. I didn't see that. I was shocked. The DJ came out because let me tell y'all, shout out to my black people. One thing about my folks, we got this thing called colored time. Colored people time, CP. And as much as my on time coloreds like to make it seem like it's not a real thing, baby, that CP is a real thing. You are just an exception to the rule. Okay? The rule of black culture is that we are sun people. We don't follow that European clock. Because that show, the time says 7 o'clock. It didn't start till about 8-ish. It started around 8-ish, like 8:15, Leandra came out. Okay, so the DJ came out around 8:15 and was like, we got a special surprise guest, and Leandra came and tore that thing down. And then after Leandra did Deliver Me, she introduced Tyler Perry, and Tyler Perry, y'all know how he do. Y'all know how Tyler gonna do. Y'all know Madea. Okay, you know how Tyler gonna do. He turned that thing into a straight up Tyrian service. Tyler told him, keep the music going. And next thing you know, he was praying the house down. And he had everybody reach their hand out and touch and agree and pray over Leandria and turned it into a Terry. A Terry. Feel it in your shana. Huh? Felt it in my shana. Okay, a whole Tyrian service there. Okay, folks was up through there in the room. Okay, I said, child, y'all didn't say we was introducing the ghost, introducing the Holy Ghost. Come on. And then how we supposed to act right when Miss Tina come out here? We supposed to act like we be reading and we got some sense. And y'all done bought the ghost up in the room. I said, child, y'all. But Miss Tina came out looking beautiful and lovely and royal and regal and gorgeous. And they talked about the book. I will say this, a wellness community, we watched it as a collective. If you watch her Oprah podcast interview, which is free and available on YouTube, it was the same conversation. It was pretty much the same questions. I'm assuming that she probably drafted her own questions up because I've also been seeing clips from other tour stops and it's all the same questions. So I'm assuming that she's kind of drafted her own thing up, and she has them asking the questions. So if you've seen the Oprah podcast interview, it's pretty much that conversation. But Tyler is funny. So he's throwing in his little funny little anecdotes and little funny comments as he does, right? And just making the whole thing real hilarious. Of course, when they brought up Matthew, he said, he was like, yeah, you left a lot of people with their dignity. And referring to Matthew. She mentioned Richard Lawson, who y'all know has worked on Tyler Perry projects. He was actually in his last movie that was real good. Not the last one that came out, but what was the movie with Richard Lawson that Tyler Perry dropped on Netflix that everybody was watching? Y'all know what I'm thinking. Richard Lawson was in there. He played the girl's father. It was the wife. Come on, y'all. Come on, people. Come on. Yeah, Beauty in the Black. Come on, Max. I knew you was going to do it. Moderator. Come on, Max. Thank you, girl. Oh, was it Mia Culpa? No, I think it was, no, it wasn't Beauty in the Black. Max, look, I'm over here. I'm over here. Was it Beauty in the Black? Divorce in Black. There we go. I was like, it's somebody right. Somebody. Something about the black. Beauty in the Black. Divorce in the Black. Something Mia Culpa. This is how you know Tyler be working, though. Because look how many movies we just named. Look how many things. Beauty in the Black, Divorce in the Black, Mia Culpa. Somebody else has said something else, child. Tyler be going. But it was definitely Divorce in the Black. Where Richard Lawson played in, but she made a comment and she said, I know Richard is your friend. For those of you who do not know, Miss Tina was married to Richard Lawson for 10 years and then they divorced. And she said, I know Richard is your friend, referring to Tyler. And Tyler said, I don't love him that much. But he was joking though, but it was funny. Very fun, lighthearted conversation. It always feels good to sit at the feet of an elder. For me, I love sitting at the feet of an elder, especially an elder who's being vulnerable and open and telling their stories and sharing their wisdom. One thing about Miss Tina Knowles is that she is she's being very honest and very candid and very open about her journey. And she's talking about her life lessons and, her regrets and things like that. And I will say one of my biggest takeaways, and I shared this with the tribe, she mentioned enough, right? Feeling like you are enough. And that's something, Miss Tina is over 70, right? And she said that she didn't get that until recently. So in her 70s, in her elder years is when she finally started feeling like enough. And Miss Felicia Rashad said something similar when she did her Breakfast Club interview, where she mentioned that she didn't start feeling like enough until she was in her 30s, So I told the community, I heavily advise everybody, focus on that. Focus on feeling like you are enough. Focus on your worthiness. Focus on growing in your confidence. Focus on your enoughness, right? Growing in your enoughness, because there's a reason that these elder sisters are coming out and saying this back to back, right? The universe is trying to send us a message of something we need to pay attention to, So just a little lesson, a little takeaway, okay? And stream and support Landra. Stream and support Landra. Leandra Johnson, okay, the sister queen, that sister, she got it. I don't care what nobody say. She got something you can't take away. Okay? She got it, huh? Now, family, let's get into our full moon in Scorpio that we have peaking on May 12th. Y'all, I got my notes right here. Wellness community, you know you don't need to take notes because these notes will be dropped into Patreon immediately after this live is over. All right, now our full moons are all about revealing and releasing. Okay, so anytime we have a full moon, it offers us the opportunity to reflect. There's also usually revelations that come about, and it also offers us the opportunity to release anything that is not aligned with our wellness. That is full moon energy. Another thing about full moon energy is it naturally elevates our emotions simply because the full moon pulls at the tides of the water. It elevates the tides of the water. And because we are over 70% water energy, right? We are over 70% water. It naturally elevates our tides. So our emotions are naturally elevated. And what also elevates the emotions, as well as the creativity, as well as our desire to nurture and be nurtured, is the fact that the full moon is ruled by the Orisha Yemoja, so known as Yemeya in Lukumi tradition. Now, the interesting thing about that is Yemoja is the divine mother, right? So that divine feminine energy, when we have a full moon, is elevated. So the emotions, the intuition is also elevated. And what's going to heighten the intuition even more is that Scorpio energy. Okay, we have Scorpio, which is a fixed water sign ruled by Pluto and Mars. When we are talking about Scorpio energy, we are talking about the energy of passion and purpose. We are talking about the energy of truth. Scorpios are known for being truth speakers. They will literally call out the hidden things. So this full moon is really a full moon of hidden truths being revealed. It's a full moon where we need to mind our emotions and pay attention to our emotions and really see how we are coping with these emotions, simply because this full moon is, I'm going to be honest with y'all, it's going to greatly challenge us, but in a healthy way. And the reason this full moon may be challenging is because we have a T square. So our full moon is in Scorpio. Squaring on one end, we have Mars, which is one of the ruling planets of Scorpio. Mars is resting in Leo. Mars is our energy, our planet of action and drive. Anytime we have a square, it presents a challenge, but that challenge is meant to grow us, right? Now, with us full moon in Scorpio in Mars square, we are challenged to be mindful of our actions because we can be, especially Mars and Leo, we can be a bit fiery in our actions. We can kind of act out of emotion, which can be dangerous. So there's a lot of increase of the likelihood of a bickering or argument situation. A lot of people may find themselves getting into confrontations and don't even realize it, getting into like back and forths. A lot of people are seeking that energy, seeking to debate and seeking to bicker and seeking to kind of have these disagreements, right? But having these disagreements is not a negative thing, right? It's about, are you pushing the boundaries and restrictions? Are you pushing back on the rules of society and the rules of the family? Are you speaking some of these hidden truths that your family may not necessarily be comfortable with? And I bring that up simply because opposing this full moon in Scorpio, we have Mercury. Mercury is our planet of communication, right? Communication, personal technology, transportation, and agreements. We have a Mars square and a Mercury opposition. A lot of mouths is going to be going crazy. A lot of mouths is going to be moving real quick. A lot of folks is going to be talking slick, but also a lot of people are going to be speaking the truths that they wish they would have spoken a long time ago. A lot of people are going to be saying those uncomfortable truths that will really push the boundaries and restrictions of your family. And that is what's going to grow, right? Sometimes you may be saying the uncomfortable truths, but those uncomfortable truths are necessary to be spoken because healing needs to come about, right? And a release needs to come about. And what needs to be released is those unhealthy coping mechanisms, okay? And the reason I say that these uncomfortable truths are going to push the boundaries and restrictions of your family and of society is because we have Saturn, our planet of restrictions and boundaries, trining and trying to bring harmony, right? So anytime we have a trine, this is telling us what is going to heal, what is going to grow, what is going to be better. Using your communication, that Mercury opposition, to take action and really push back, using your communication to push back on those hidden truths and to speak those uncomfortable truths and push back on those boundaries and restrictions. That is what's really going to help your family, help your community grow, evolve, and be better, because it gives you all the opportunity to really transform and transition out of your comfort zone and elevate in wellness, out of the comfort zone of low vibration coping mechanisms that are not healthy. It's the old fashioned thing of, a lot of people sweep things under the rug. They sweep uncomfortable conversations under the rug. They sweep past trauma under the rug. They sweep hidden truths under the rug, right? And they come up with these coping mechanisms to pretend like these things have not happened. And that's where the boundaries and restrictions occur, where we don't want to have these conversations. We don't want to talk about these things, even though you may need to talk about it to help you be better and to help you heal. We don't want to have those conversations because it makes us uncomfortable. This is the time to really have those conversations. This is the time to really push back on those hidden truths, uncover them, reveal them, and have those conversations so that you can heal. Push back on those boundaries and restrictions, right? Now, the reason I say this will be super transformative, but the transformation won't be easy. Again, we have to be mindful because this can lead to bickering and arguing and disagreements. You have to really, in order to do this, you have to really know how to have a healthy conversation in the midst of disagreement. You have to. And I say that this can be transformative because the other side of that T square, so keep in mind, we have our full moon in Scorpio, we have Mars squaring in Leo, and then we have the other aspect of that T is that Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is our planet of transformation and change, generational transformation and change. So this is the time to really address those generational curses, right? And really unveil the hidden truths that led to those generational curses becoming curses in the first place. Having those conversations, this is the time to really break those generational curses by addressing the elephants in the room, by lifting up the rug that those things have been swept under. This is the time to have those conversations, okay? So that is the beauty of this T square. Yes, it can be very challenging because to make it very plain, what this full moon is going to likely look like, and people are probably already feeling it, this full moon is really looking like people internally having scattered emotions, elevated emotions, intense emotions, feeling like something needs to be addressed, something is going on. Likely some people getting triggered and having these emotions come up and wanting to take action, wanting to do something about it, but really not wanting to go to your usual unhealthy coping mechanism, wanting to make a final change once and for all so that you can grow and you can be well. That is that Mars square energy with the full moon in Leo. Yes, having those conversations and addressing it, because that would be the healthy way to do it. That's the Mercury opposition. The opposition can be a challenge where, yes, the healthy way to do it is to speak those hidden truths, to lift up the rug, to lift up the veil of secrecy, right? To have those conversations about the generational curses. But it's opposing, so it's not going to be easy. It's going to make people uncomfortable. Unveiling those hidden truths, revealing those hidden truths, and addressing them head on is going to make people uncomfortable. That's the opposition energy. But that square of Pluto is letting us know that it will be super transformative for your wellness, despite it not necessarily being the most comfortable experience. Okay, it'll be super transformative for your wellness, but the experience may not be that comfortable. So over this next week, it may look like a lot of tough conversations, a lot of emotions coming up, feeling a bit scattered, but you don't want to walk away from any conversation wishing you would have said something you didn't say. Y'all know how we sometimes do that, especially if you are in a situation where there is generational trauma, where there are generational curses, and there are things that people don't feel comfortable talking about. And you walk away and then you replay the conversation and you're like, I wish I would have said this. I should have said that. I should have told auntie such and such. I should have told my grandmama or my mama or my daddy or my uncle. I should have said such and such to them. I should have said this and said that, or reminded them of when they hurt me in this way, or when they said this thing, or whatever, right? Whatever hidden truth that you have not spoken on. This is the time to don't leave yourself in the space of what you wish you would have said. This is the time to say it. Have the uncomfortable conversation. Reveal the hidden truth. Address it head on. Yes, it's going to be comfortable, but in the midst of the discomfort, this is when you have to practice your wellness. Scorpios are very introspective. Usually Scorpios are really to themselves. They can be a bit reclusive, which this is a good time to practice reclusion if you feel led to, right? This is a good time to be in solitude for a while and kind of meditate, because you want to make sure that you are balancing your emotions, that you are cleansing and clear on your emotions, okay? You want to make sure that you have clarity on what are the root of these emotions, what are the triggers of these emotions, and how am I coping with them? Is my coping mechanism healthy or unhealthy? Is it elevating my wellness, or is it depleting my wellness? Is it elevating my vibration, or is it lowering my vibration? Really take some time to assess those coping mechanisms. And if you find out, if you reveal that one of your coping mechanisms are unhealthy or it's lowering your vibration, that's something that you need to release. So revelations during this full moon in Scorpio, hidden truths, right? Hidden truths within self, hidden truths within family, hidden truths that are leading to coping mechanisms that are unhealthy. This is the time to really, really pay attention to those revelations, but then also release them. Release the hidden truths by having the conversations and addressing the uncomfortable truths, and also release those lower vibration coping mechanisms that are not elevating your wellness, that are not elevating your vibration, by coming up or creating a plan that will help you to really kind of wean off of it, right? Because this is the thing with coping mechanisms, right? With coping mechanisms, it's not always a situation where you can go cold turkey. When you've lived your entire life, peace, welcome to the live. Congratulations. This is my first live, or you caught a live. Congratulations on catching a live. Okay. Welcome. But when you have a coping mechanism that you've been dealing with your entire life, oftentimes it is hard for people to just cold turkey cut that coping mechanism off. So you have to come up with a plan to help you release that coping mechanism. You have to come up with a plan to kind of help wean you off of that coping mechanism. And unhealthy coping mechanisms look different for everybody. Lower vibration coping mechanisms look different for everybody. It's up to you to assess when these emotions come up, or when I think of this trauma, or when I think of this truth, right? I feel an emotion that I do not enjoy, and I respond to it by doing this. How do you respond to those emotions, right? Those are your emotional responses, and those things. So let's be clear. Oftentimes, when people have an emotion come up, everybody has an emotional response. You respond to that emotion in some way. Sometimes those emotional responses are coping mechanisms, right? How do you cope with the emotion? How do you respond to the emotion that helps in a way that helps you cope with it? Some people's coping mechanisms lower their vibration. They are not healthy for them. They distract them from the emotion. That's an unhealthy coping mechanism. Some people, they respond to the emotion by looking for a distraction so that they can forget, which really is masking the truth. It's hiding the truth, and that's contributing to the hidden truth. That's contributing to this. Salam over here. I heard, y'all know how dogs be about to throw up and they do that. I thought he was doing that, but he's doing a little backward sneeze thing. I was like, y'all saw I looked over quick. Get off my couch. If you're going to throw up, get off my couch. Okay, but he's not throwing up though, thank God. But yes, again, some people's lower vibration coping mechanisms really help them hide that truth again. And that truth does not need to be hidden. It needs to be revealed. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be paid attention to. So always be mindful of that. Now, a healthy coping mechanism is something that helps you deal with the emotions, helps you address the emotion in a healthy way, in a way that elevates your vibration. A lower vibration coping mechanism can look like something that's distracting. It could also look like something that's that's unhealthy, an unhealthy emotional response, like fighting, like getting into a unhealthy argument where no real clear communication is happening, no real clear understanding is being achieved. Those would be lower vibration or unhealthy coping mechanisms. Okay. So that's what you want to be addressed right now, and that's what you want to release right now. Now, I'm going to give you some tips on how to come up with the plan to release those. So let's get into some what to do's. Okay. Now, when it comes to what to do, I'm going to go down the whole list, and then the last part, I'll give you a plan to help you release those unhealthy coping mechanisms. The first one is be slow to anger and bicker. Be slow to anger and bicker. Like I said, we have that square of that Mars and Leo, and that could really, Mars and Leo is naturally going to add fire to our desire to act, right? It's going to really cause us to want to like move head first and headstrong, which can lead to some arguing and bickering. That opposition of Mercury could lead to some arguing and bickering. So again, this is where the emotional intelligence is going to be important, because we have to always keep in mind that it's super important for us to be aware of our emotions, to be in alignment with wellness as we bring awareness to our emotions, and to really mind our emotions by being able to identify exactly how you are feeling and choosing a healthy response to that feeling. So be slow to anger and do not bicker. Do not engage in an unhealthy back and forth. And what makes an unhealthy back and forth is anytime you find yourself going back and forth and the intention is not to understand. That's an unhealthy communication. That's a bickering. That's what leads to knockout, drag out, screaming, and arguing. Anytime you're having a conversation and y'all are going back and forth and neither party is intentional about trying to understand the other party, or it could even be one person who's not intentional. If the intention of the conversation is not to understand but to be right, it's never going to be healthy. If only one person is there engaging in the conversation with the intent to be right and not to understand, it's not going to be healthy. Both parties have to come into a conversation with the intention to understand, okay? And that's what could lead to the bickering. So when you are having these conversations where you are really addressing and unveiling these hidden truths and having these uncomfortable conversations, the healthy thing to do is acknowledge, like, hey, I know this is something that makes you uncomfortable or makes us uncomfortable, but this is something that I think needs to be discussed. So here's some things that we can do to, when we feel uncomfortable, here's some things that we can do to address our discomfort. What is something you would like to do in the midst of the conversation to address the discomfort? This is what I would like to do. Maybe y'all can have a safe word, right? When y'all are having this conversation, okay? So when things get too uncomfortable or you feel anger revving up, hey, this is my safe word where we take a break from this conversation and then we can return to it. This is how healthy communication takes place. And this is how you can avoid or stop bickering and arguing from even starting, okay? The second thing is practice reclusion as much as possible during this full moon in Scorpio, because the energy is intense, because the emotions are intense, and not just with you as an individual, but this is society, right? We have to remember the planetary alignment affects the all, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, whether they want to recognize it and name it or not. A lot of people are not moving in awareness, right? Your average person, when you're walking down the street, when you're asking them like, hey, what planets are squaring the moon right now? They're not going to know. Right? Walk down the street and say, hey, where's Pluto right now? They're going to be like, what? child, you don't get out my face. You know what I'm saying? So the average person is not going to know that. So a lot of people are not in awareness, but that doesn't mean that their energy is not being affected. Be literally mindful. Be mindful of that. Okay. So I don't advise necessarily hanging out in the streets too much. I know Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday. Okay. So, and this is going to be the peak of this energy. All right. So you want to be super mindful as you are hanging out and taking your mamas, or if you are the mama, taking the children. You know, you want to be super mindful of the bickering and the enhanced emotions and people just being extra sensitive during this time. Okay. So again, I heavily advise practicing reclusion as much as possible. And if you are not going to be more reclusive during this season, you need to be more aware and try to just mind how you respond to other people's triggers and other people's heightened emotions. Moving awareness, okay? The third thing to do, pay attention to any unhealthy coping mechanisms that show up strong or increase in frequency during this time. Pay attention to any unhealthy coping mechanisms that show up strong or increase in frequency. And earlier I gave some example of unhealthy coping mechanisms, using things to distract yourself from addressing what needs to be addressed, addressing triggers, addressing trauma that comes up, addressing emotions that come up that may make you uncomfortable. Do not be distracted. How can you respond to these emotions in a healthy way? How can you respond to this trauma? How can you respond to these thoughts in a healthy way that you are not distracting yourself from it, but you are addressing and healing? Okay. The fourth thing to do, release these lower vibration coping mechanisms, and any coping mechanism that is not elevating your holistic wellness must go. Do a burying release ceremony for these unhealthy coping mechanisms. So you could do a burying or a burning release ceremony for these unhealthy coping mechanisms. And I have a whole video on burning release ceremonies and how to do that. You can look on my channel for that. You could just type in burning and it should come up, but I give a step-by-step tutorial on how to do a burning release ceremony there. Okay. Now the creating a plan, right? Creating a plan to help decrease the frequency, because the spiritual practice of the burning release ceremony or the burying ceremony is great, but you also have to come up with a plan to address the mental and physical, right? So this is, y'all know I'm big on holistic wellness, right? We can have our spiritual practices and we can do our burning and our burials and our offerings, and we can do our herbs and our many other things that are in alignment with spiritual wellness. But we also have to practice our mental and physical wellness as well. When it comes to unhealthy coping mechanisms, again, a lot of people have been dependent upon this for their wellness, right? You're dependent upon distracting yourself. You're dependent upon acting like this didn't happen or that didn't happen, right? We call that intentional memory blocking. A lot of people practice intentional memory blocking and don't even realize it, where you will intentionally try to block certain portions of your memory in order to cope and heal. Another thing that people do, and this contributes to intentional memory blocking, is people will shift the narrative. Y'all ever been in conversation with somebody you grew up with and something happened that y'all both were there for? You know, and it's a childhood experience. It may have been centered in trauma, but they've changed the narrative of how the story has happened. And you're like, I was there for that. That is not how that happened. That is not what was said. And sometimes it is the actual abuser. It is the one who made the transgression who will change the narrative. That's intentional memory blocking. They're blocking memory of the truth of what happened, and they're shifting the narrative to make themselves comfortable. That is an unhealthy coping mechanism, right? So again, we're going to come up with a plan. We're going to create a plan on how can we mentally and physically release these unhealthy coping mechanisms without having to do it cold turkey, because doing it cold turkey is easier said than done. Okay. So create a plan to decrease the frequency of practice of these unhealthy coping mechanisms by, one, bringing awareness to it. That's the first step. Bring awareness to it. And you bring awareness to it by bringing awareness to the emotion and then identifying your response. right? And when you identify your response and you realize that this response is an unhealthy coping mechanism, it is not helping to elevate my wellness. It is not helping me to live in truth and honesty. It's not helping me be my authentic self. This coping mechanism is not well for me. You have now brought awareness to it. The second thing is identify the trigger. Let's get to the root of it, right? Because it's one thing to say, hey, you know, this action or this thought led me to feel this emotion, which led me to this unhealthy coping mechanism. But let's get to the root, or the trigger of why you chose that unhealthy coping mechanism. What is it helping you to avoid or escape? Right? What is it helping you? How is it helping you to be well? Right? Why are you choosing this unhealthy coping mechanism? It's helping you to be well in this moment because you get to avoid or escape accountability of the true trigger, which is usually that past trauma. Right? So that's what needs to be addressed. So the second thing, identify the trigger of it. And the third thing you want to do is choose a healthy, high vibration coping mechanism that elevates your wellness to replace it. So what you're doing here is you are bringing awareness to the lower vibration coping mechanism. You are identifying the trigger, the root of the why. Why am I, what escape? What am I escaping? What am I avoiding? And then once you realize what the real trigger is, what is a healthy way that I can respond to this emotion that comes up when this trigger comes up? And this is something that, again, the healthy response, the healthy coping mechanism is something that you are going to go to as you deal with the roots, right? As you deal with the healing process of the true root of all of it, because healing that trauma will take some time. You need a healthy coping mechanism that will help you as you heal. Right? And then, of course, we know as you continue to heal, more than likely you won't need any coping mechanism. It will be easy for you to address the emotion and to deal with the emotion, and the emotion won't even be as intense as you continue to heal the true trigger. But as you work through healing, you need a healthy coping mechanism. Now, what are healthy coping mechanisms? Healthy coping mechanisms are anything that help you elevate your wellness. What is something that you can do that will help you elevate in your holistic wellness, any aspect of your holistic wellness when that emotion comes up, right? So, and that's up to you. It will look different for everybody. But what I will advise you all to do is I advise you all to really start researching a variety of different grounding techniques and grounding practices. Look up a variety of different forms of breathwork. Wellness community, we talked about fire breathing. Y'all know I love Wim Hof method. I love the Wim Hof method. He incorporates fire breathing, but he also has a different variety of types of breath work and breathwork techniques that he does. So look up Wim Hof, WIM space HOF. He's really good with that. Also, something else you can do is body movement, right? Look into yoga, look into sacred dances, right? Sacred movement. Queen Afua has a beautiful womb wellness sacred movement dance that she does that you can find on the internet, right? So there are many different things. You can paint, you can draw, you can create to release that energy and to really help you express that energy, express that emotion. Think about wellness community when we watched Exhibiting Forgiveness. And if you are not in the wellness community, I advise you go watch that movie. I think it's free right now on Hulu. It's called Exhibiting Forgiveness. It's a great, great movie. But think about him, right? As he was healing his trauma, his healthy coping mechanism for him was painting. And his painting reflected his story. And as he healed, we saw the evolution of his painting, right? As he began to release and he began to forgive and he began to move forward, we saw how his art evolved, right? So creating in any way, that is a good way to express and to release that energy, which can elevate your wellness, okay? Now, journal prompts. Let me drink something. Y'all know how we do. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Little libation for self. Little libation for self. Come on now, drink your water. Get your electrolytes. Keep it alkaline if you can. Let's get into it. Journal prompts. Now, let me be clear. The intention with these journal prompts. I love y'all dearly. Okay, yes, somatic movement is really good too. I love somatic movement. Somatic movement is good. Let me tell y'all what this community y'all know. Remember a long time ago in the tribe, we had got recommended a somatic movement class, and it was not for us. It was not. It was not. Somatic movement is good. Make sure you keep it. Make sure it's aligned with you culturally. Okay, make sure it's aligned with you culturally. We were. What is this? I can't. What Michael Blackson said the next Friday. I can't get jiggy with this shit. Okay, so make sure your somatic movement is culturally aligned. Something I love to do is I love to listen to Orisha music on YouTube, right? And I love to practice somatic movement to Orisha music. So you could just type in like Oshun music, you could type in Shango music or the Orisha of your choice, right? And you can listen to the music that is aligned with the Orisha. This is a good time to listen to some Oya songs, some Oya music, incantations. This is a good time to practice some somatic movement to that. Also, Reiki is really good as well. Reiki is all about energy transmutation. Look up Sean Williams, Universal Lighthouse, for some Reiki. Okay, she's a really good Reiki consultant, and she offers virtual sessions as well. Okay, but the intention with these journal prompts, all right, let's get into it. When I was manifesting these journal prompts, I was considering the wellness community and a conversation that we had the other day. Right now, we are reading the book Living in Wisdom by Debbie Brown, which is all about embracing your authentic self, embracing your grief journey and healing. Great, 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 great read so far. If you have not read Living in Wisdom or you have not gotten the book, it just dropped. I believe it was released April 22nd. Excellent book. Get into it. Okay, get into it. Great book. We are reading that right now, and we always do a thoughts and feels session after every read, and we were talking about God, and we were talking about fate and destiny, and shout out to Variety with the Virgo who asked a great question. So when I was manifesting these journal prompts, that I was having that conversation in mind, okay, about how do you think all of this works? And I was telling the community, right, specifically when we were talking about like God and even like free will versus fate and destiny, you have to know for yourself and define for yourself. I don't, although it can be helpful to look on the outside for inspiration, I don't believe in looking to anybody else to define God for you and define free will or fate and destiny for you. It's good to be inspired, but you have to know for sure what is true for you. Because when you call on God, that is the energy that you are calling to yourself, right? When you're talking about fate, destiny, free will, that impacts your mental wellness and your perspective and how you make decisions in this world, right? So I created some journal prompts to help you all decide, to help you all really analyze, assess, and decide what energy are you calling on and how are you basing your decisions? What are you basing your decisions on, right? So let's get into it. The first journal prompt, simply, what does God mean to you? What does God mean to you? And keep in mind, this is important because when you say God, this is the energy you are calling on. This is the energy you are connecting to. So what does God mean to you? And Wellness Community, I shared my definition and my explanation with y'all. What I will say is, although you can be inspired, again, it's important for you, for everybody, to decide for yourself. Decide for yourself. And the beautiful thing about having your own definition is that you can sum it up. You can sum it up. Create your long, extended definition, and then ask yourself, if I had to turn this whole definition into one phrase or one word, what would it be? And that determines what you call God, right? Because you can say God, God energy, you can say Allah, you can say whatever you feel comfortable. You can say Olodumare. But for me, I like to identify God as the highest divine source, because that's a summary of my definition. The highest divine source. The highest divine source, simply, right? I love that, Devin. Creator. Creator. right? The energy of the creator. That's what I'm calling on, right? So how would you sum it up for you, you know? Second one, and also consider this for the first one. What does God mean to you? Consider this, that for me, I said consider, but for me, when I define God, I too am a part of that definition. I too am a part of that definition. Okay? Yes, I love this. Miss MML said the all. That was Maya Angelou's definition. Oprah asked Maya Angelou, what, I think she asked her essentially something like this, like, what is God to you? And Maya Angelou said, the all. The all. Y'all, I wish. And I love Oprah dearly. Okay, and this is, y'all know how I feel. Let me tell y'all something. Just a little side note. People could say what they want to say about Oprah, but one thing for certain, two things for sure, about Oprah Keyshawn Winfrey. She was the founder, the start, the trailblazer, you know what I'm saying, for this spiritual shit publicly. She was the start. Oprah was one of, and I'm saying one of, because with all due respect, it may have been somebody before her, but she was the first that I knew. The first that I knew to be on daytime television and have no problem talking about spirituality beyond Christianity, beyond any major religion. Really talking about spirituality. She had Deepak Chopra on her show talking about levitation, talking about alchemy and transmutation. Okay? So for me, Oprah Sugarfoot Winfrey is good in my book. She was a part of my spark as a child. She was the first person I saw on TV that normalized what was so normal around me. That normalized talking about yoga and talking about, again, alchemy and transmutation. One thing about that, say what you want, but Oprah, she introduced the world to Ayan Levanzant, an Obatala priestess who used to come in that show dressed in all white. Okay? Oprah Keyshawn Sugarfoot Winfrey was that girl. So say what you want to say, but she did it. Now, this is my only thing. When I see Oprah, we're going to have a little tussle, a little mini square up, because release the full masterclass series on one streaming platform or on your YouTube channel, please. The full episodes of all of the masterclasses. Because her masterclass series, and that was another thing that was groundbreaking, to have these people talking about their life from a spiritual perspective, right? You got Maya Angelou on your show talking about, and not just on the show where she there's a conversation where she sat and talked to Maya Angelou, but I'm talking about the masterclass with the black background. Okay, where Oprah had her talking about her spiritual journey and her life lessons. She had Jay-Z. She had, I'm about to say somebody's name who I ain't gonna say right now, but she had a multitude of people, okay, talking about their spiritual journey. Oprah released the master classes streaming all on one platform. You can find some of them spread out, but that Maya Angelou episode, baby, you can't find nowhere the full one. Somebody on YouTube made like a compilation of all the clips. I don't want a bunch of clips put together. I want the full episode, HD, high definition, released. Okay, come on, Sugarfoot. Come on, good yams, mac and cheese. Oprah look like she could put together some good yams and mac and cheese, don't she? It's gonna be a little eclectic. It ain't gonna be traditional soul food. She put a little white cheddar in her mac and cheese. Her mac and cheese is a little light skinned because she liked the white cheeses. But she's still going to add that sharp cheddar for that twang. Okay, she looked like she put together a good bag of cheese and a good yam. She keep her sweet potatoes sliced. They're not chunky. She slices her sweet potatoes and layers them because it got to be fancy, but it tastes good with a little a hint of healthy still. It ain't drenched in syrup. It's a coat. She don't drench it in the syrup. It's a coat, a little coat of the syrup. Okay, she looked like she got it. Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna trust her with the turkey. Stedman can fry the turkey, but Oprah can fry the fish. She look like she fried good fish, don't she? With cornmeal, not flour. Okay. Anyway, come on, y'all. Back to it. Back to the journal prompts. Let's go. Y'all done got me on a whole tizzy. Third journal prompt. No, second journal prompt. Lord, we only made it to the first one. What does God mean to you? The second journal prompt. How do you think the universe works? How do you think the universe works? That's the second journal prompt. When you consider the universe in all aspects of the universe, and you consider the universe conspiring in your favor, how do you think all of that works? What role do you think the universe plays into life, into wellness? How do you think the universe works? And the reason this is important is because when you are practicing manifestation, right? This is the energy you are working with. So how do you think it works? Clarify that for yourself. Okay. Third journal prompt. Shout out to Variety with the Virgo because she sparked this conversation in the community. And I shared how it was a conversation I brought up in college. And this one I knew I was a little different. I was at a kickback at my house, and everybody, we at the kickback, indulging, kicking back, relaxing. And I just brought up this question. And the Variety with the Virgo asked it on Wednesday during our last book club meeting. And I said, girl, this is one of my faves because this question helped me realize you a little different. Because when I brought this question up, everybody looked like, girl, what the hell? But it sparked a great, almost 3-hour conversation, right? Here's the question. Do you believe in free will? Do you believe in destiny or fate? What is the relationship between free will and destiny? So it's a little cluster. Do you believe in free will? Do you believe in destiny or fate? What is the relationship between free will and destiny? Okay. And this is important because, like I said, this impacts how you make your decisions. Your relationship with free will versus destiny or fate impacts the role, the accountability you have in your decision making. Okay? Fourth question. What is your definition of good? What is your definition of bad? What makes someone a good person to you? What is your definition of good? What is your definition of bad? And what makes someone a good person to you? And this is important because it's going to lead to the fifth journal prompt. Okay? If you had to create your own 10 commandments, what would they be and why? If you had to create your own 10 commandments, what would they be and why? Sydney said, your questions make my brain glitch out. Y'all so silly. Much love, much love. I'm glad you are enjoying them. And I'm telling y'all, these questions, these are the things that I asked myself very early in my spiritual journey as an adult, right? Because, thankfully I grew up in a family where we didn't grow up strict in any specific religion. So we had the opportunity to decide for ourselves and explore for ourselves, but also these questions were never clearly defined for us, right? And I had to start asking myself, like, well, what do you believe? And what do you know for sure? Because when I'm manifesting and when I'm praying and when I'm calling on God and when I'm choosing how I want to live my life and my morals and values, These 5 journal prompts is what I'm basing those decisions on. Those 10 commandments, and it doesn't have to be 10, let's be clear. I use 10 commandments because that's what's popularly known, but you could have your laws of Mayat, right? Like whatever, however many you want to create. You could do 28, 48, 40, 10. But that determines how I choose to live my life, because my commandments are not for anybody else. It's for me. It's I'm reflecting my morals and my values, right? So if you had to create your own 10 commandments, what would it be? What are your morals and what are your values? What do you think makes somebody, yourself, a good person, right? What is wellness for you? What do you think living a wellness-centered life is like? What are your values, your commandments? How do you live, right? And again, this just offers a guide to life, right? So working through these journal prompts helps you understand the energy you're working with. It helps you understand the energy you're connecting with in the midst of manifestation. It helps you understand and mind your judgments of good versus bad and your labels of good and bad. But it also helps you understand your own morals and values and how you should live life for wellness based on your own terms, okay? Now, crystals and herbs, and then we're going to close out. Okay, we almost at an hour. Crystals and herbs. All of these crystals and herbs are centered around transmuting energy, especially, like I said, with this full moon in Scorpio, energy can be a bit intense, a bit scattered. Emotions can be heightened. Conversations can be uncomfortable. So it's all about transmuting energy, balancing your emotions, and being well. Okay. The first crystal is citrine. Citrine is for peace in the midst of transformation, and that's good for that Pluto square, one aspect of that T square. Pluto in Aquarius, okay? The second crystal is black obsidian, and black obsidian is to help you bring ease when facing trauma. So when having those tough conversations, when working through those unhealthy coping mechanisms, that black obsidian is to help you bring ease when facing trauma. The third crystal, yellow topaz, for protection and enhanced discernment, okay? And just protecting your energy as a whole, especially if you choose to go out. Like I said, Scorpios are usually pretty reclusive and pretty to themselves, but I know Mother's Day is on Sunday and many of you will be out and about celebrating. So that yellow topaz is going to be good for protecting your energy in the midst of the full moon that is upon us. Now, onyx is the fourth crystal, and onyx is good for emotional balance. Okay. And the fifth one is black tourmaline. Black tourmaline is good for transmuting energy, right? So in the midst of these uncomfortable conversations, it's very helpful for you to transmute the energy, right? The energy that you are receiving from the people that you are in conversation with, in community with, and it transmuted to an energy of wellness. Okay. So running through them one more time: citrine, black obsidian, yellow topaz, onyx, and black tourmaline. Okay. Now, herbs. Now, with these herbs, you can do, let me see. I'm going to tell you what, you know how usually I say, oh, take a spiritual bath or make a tea. I'm going to tell you what to do with each herb individually, okay? Activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is good for clarity and protection. Now, with this activated charcoal, if you are going to use it for clarity and protection, you can blend it with some sea salt, right? This is how you make one of the ways you can make black salt. You can grind together the activated charcoal and the sea salt, and you could line your thresholds with it, okay? You can mark yourself with it. When I say mark yourself, that means you could put it with a little oil, and you can mark your sacred spaces, your portals, right, with this black salt. Or you could just use the activated charcoal by itself, right? A lot of people, and I was considering that when I was making this, because I'm gonna give you another alternative for this, but a lot of people, anytime I recommend cascarilla, people say, oh, I can't get cascarilla or cascarilla. People say, I can't get cascarilla. I can't get it. I don't know where to get it from, right? Which most botanicas, any good botanica should be selling cascarilla or cascarilla. But if you can't get it, you can also make it out of ground eggshells, right? That's how you can make it. It's also known as effun, right? You can make it out of the ground eggshells. But even if you can't do that, or you don't want to do that, you can also use your activated charcoal as a substitutes, okay? And again, you can also mix grind the activated charcoal with some sea salt and create black salt and use it the same way you would use any type of sea salt protection. So you can put it in your spiritual bath, you can line your thresholds with it, or you could also bless your sacred portals with it. And it's interesting, right? No shade, but this is one of the ways spirituality is becoming very trendy is because everybody is only using the cascarilla. And I'm like, there's so many other things, especially depending on the type of working you're doing, depending on like when people are doing community work, like community readings and things like that, they should be using activated charcoal or the other thing. And the other alternative is ashes, right? I put ashes as the second one, right? Ashes. And ashes is really, really good when you're doing communal work, right? So the ashes are also for protection, and it could be the ashes from any incense, right? Any protection incense, or the ashes from a cigar. So many people will blow cigar smoke over their ancestor altar, and then you have these ashes left from the cigar, right? And please don't ask about other ash options. No, you can't use your personal Newport, Marlboro, Salem's. I know y'all gonna ask about them ashes. No, you can't ash the blood on your forehead. No. No. Any incense for protection or cigar that has been used for offering, you can use the ashes from that in substitution for the cascarilla or cascarilla. Thank you. Or the activated charcoal, okay? And like I said, those two are good when you're doing community work, okay? Cascarilla is good when you're taking like personal spiritual bath, when you're doing personal work for yourself. But when you're doing community work, you want to use the activated charcoal or you want to use the cascarilla. Now, this is different if you are, and I'm gonna be honest with you, for me, it don't matter. But most commonly, you could also use cascarilla if you're doing community work with your own ile or your own spiritual community, where everybody who's in that community are in alignment and have done the same ceremonies that you have done or you are doing, right? The cascarilla is well for that. But if you are doing community work with people of the unknown, people who you don't know what they into, you don't know their energy, you don't know what they've done, you want to use that activated charcoal or that black salt, which is the activated charcoal sea salt blend, or the ashes, okay? Third thing, camphor, okay? Y'all know I love me some camphor. Shout out to Aunt Nancy. She used to say, come take a camphor bath. Come take a camphor bath. Get camphor. You got pain? You need some camphor. Your sinuses are stopped up? You need some camphor. Put some camphor. Come here. You got to rub down with some camphor. And rub it down with some camphor. They used to put a camphor tablet in some alcohol or some distilled vinegar or literally some alcohol like some gin or some rum and let it settle there over time. And the camphor would infuse into it. And then you got like, it's almost like it feels almost like Vicks, like loose Vicks, right? Because it's literally alcohol, but it's infused with the camphor. And you can put it in your bath water or anything. Not too much, just a little. And you're going to burn that tushy, okay? But with camphor, you can also smudge with the camphor. You can also diffuse the camphor. And camphor is good for enhancing dreams and intuitions. And this is when you want to diffuse it. If you're using it for the dreams and intuitions, you want to diffuse it, okay? Or you can smudge with it. It's up to you, okay? Smudge it with it for me, can be a bit rough though. But you can put it on. You grind it up a little bit and mix it with other herbs like frankincense and myrrh, and then you can put it on the charcoal. Okay, coconut for protection. And with the coconut, this can be coconut water, this can be ground coconut. You can literally eat this coconut, you can drink coconut. You can also take a spiritual bath in coconut, and that will help cleanse the ori and protect your energy. Okay, coconut. Yerba Santa is the fifth one. Yerba Santa is for healing and glamour magic, and you want to smudge with this. Okay, and then also with the Yerba Santa, you can, if you have like a beauty wash, like a facial cleanser or a facial toner, toner, you can put a couple of the leaves of the Yerba Santa in the bottom of it. Okay, and infuse the yerba santa into the toner or the facial cleanser, and that's for your glamour magic. Okay, and it's for healing and glamour magic, but you can smudge with it for the healing purposes. Okay, again, running through the herbs: activated charcoal, camphor, coconut, yerba santa, or ashes. Okay. All right, family, and keep in mind this full moon in Scorpio peaks on May 12th. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, to the all of the mothers, all of the mamas, all of the sisters and the people and the beings who show up as divine feminine energy and nurture the world and contribute to the nurturing energy of the world. You are appreciated. So this full moon in Scorpio will peak on May 12th, but the shadow period will last until May 15th, but it has already begun as of today. Okay, wellness community, I love y'all, love you dearly. I will see y'all tomorrow for our book club meeting. I had to think of what today was. Today Friday. I'll see y'all tomorrow for our book club meeting, and then of course Sunday for our Sunday film watch party, which I have a good documentary for us to watch. It's not really a documentary; it's more like a interview discussion. But we'll watch that, and I know it'll generate a lot of discussion. Okay, so tomorrow book club, Sunday film watch party. Everybody else, I love y'all dearly, and I will see y'all very soon. Much peace, much wellness, and happy full moon, y'all. Happy full moon in Scorpio. Much peace, y'all.